Hello everyone. Previously we learned prose The Selfish Giant part 1 and 2. Today we're going to learn poem Govinda's Disciple by Rabindranath Tagore. And this is the picture of the poet Rabindranath Tagore. First we learn about the poet. Rabindranath Tagore was born on 7 May 1861, Kolkata, and died on August 1941. He was an artist and a philosopher. He composed music, songs, and wrote plays, stories, poems, travelogues, and novels. The national anthems of India and Bangladesh were composed by him. His ability was not just limited to making literary creations, he was also a painter. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913 and was the first Asian to be honored with it. Tagore was popularly known as Gurudev. Here I've attached some of his artworks. You can just look at it and enjoy. Now we'll look into poem introduction. Rabindranath Tagore's poem Govinda's Disciple is a moral fable that deals with the relation between Govinda and his disciple Raghunath. The poem brings into focus the master-disciple relationship and shows us how the teacher teaches values through living examples of painful experiences. The poem's setting comprises the lap of nature, an earthy heaven covered with hills and streams, graced by the river Ganga. The natural surroundings, untouched by the civilization and modernization, form the perfect setting for this poem that deals with the renunciation, that is, rejection of the material in favor of the divine and the spiritual. Now we'll move on to the poem, stanza 1. Far below flowed the Ganga, quick and clear, above frowned the jutting bank. Hills dark with the woods and scarred with the torrents were gathered round. So, the poem begins with the natural imagery, transporting the readers from their worldly surroundings into the lap of nature. The river Ganga can be seen at a distance, flowing swiftly and clearly through the wilderness. The bank of the river is lined with jutted rocks, that is, extended rocks, that make it seem as if the river bank is set into a perpetual frown, that is, continuous frown. The landscape is surrounded by hills on all sides. The dense foliage of the trees growing on the hills give a dark appearance. They were scarred, which is marked or scratched by the many fast moving streams that journeyed through the hills. So now stanza 2. Govinda, the great teacher, sat on the rock reading scriptures. When Raghunath, his disciple, proud of his wealth, came and bowed to him and said, I have bought my poor wealth, unworthy of thy acceptance. So as this was going on, so it was in the midst of the wild habitat and the natural beauty that the great Guru Govinda, one of the founders of the Sikh religion, sat on the rock and heard his scriptures. His study was interrupted by one of his disciples, Raghunath, a rich fellow who came bearing a gift for his Guru. Bowing in front of Govinda, Raghunath said to his Guru that he had bought a small present for him in hopes that it would be worthy of the great sage's acceptance. So, stanza 3. Thus saying, he displayed before the teacher a pair of gold bangles studded with costly gems and emeralds. The master took up one of them, twirling it round his fingers, and the stones darted shafts of light. So Raghunath bring forth a pair of gold bangles studded with precious stones, an expensive gift indeed. So Govinda picked one of the bangles up and twirled it, that is twisted round his fingers, to observe, while the diamonds on the piece of jewelry sparkled by refracting the sunlight. So stanza 4. Suddenly it slipped from his hand and rolled down the bank into the water. Raghunath jumped into the water. The teacher set his eyes upon his book, and the water held and hid what it stole and ran its way. So Govinda was only observing one of the bangles when it suddenly slipped from his fingers and rolled down the stony bank and into the river. Taken aback by the loss of his precious gift, Raghunath screamed in disappointment and jumped into the water to retrieve the bangle that he had bought for his Guru. And Govinda continued to sit on the rock and read his scriptures, unbothered by the frantic, that is, panic attempts of Raghunath. So the water too seemed unbothered by Raghunath's search and continued to hide away the bangle as if it had decided to steal the same away from Raghunath. So stanza 5. At sunset Raghunath came back. He begged him to show him the place where it fell. The teacher took the other bangle and threw it into the water, saying, "There it is." So, dripping with water and exhausted Raghunath came back to Govinda, having spent the whole day looking for the bangle in the water. Through breathless pants, he told his guru that he could still fetch the bangle for him, only Govinda would show him where it fell. Govinda answered this request of his disciple in the most unexpected way. Picking up the second bangle, he threw it into the water as well and said, "It's there," implying that just like the first bangle, even the second one was lost now. So that's the end of the poem, and I'm going to explain the poem again. Govinda Singh, one of the founders of Sikh religion, sitting on a rock on the bank of river Ganga, teaches his disciple Raghunath the importance of material renunciation, that is, to abandon the material to achieve divine life. The disciple presents a pair of gold bangles to his master. The master is not pleased at his disciple's gift. He wants to teach his disciple that attachment to the metal is a serious impediment, which means weakness or obstacle to divine blessing. A disciple who seeks divine life is expected to possess detachment, that is, disinterest from the material world. The master lets one of the bangles roll down into the river. The panic-stricken disciple jumps into the water to recover the lost bangle. The master continued reading scriptures. As the daylight faded, the disciple came up and begged his master to help him spot the direction where the bangle fell to make another attempt. To his shock, master obliged him by throwing the other bangle to the same direction where the first one fell. And that is the abrupt ending of the poem. So now we look into the moral and message. So this is how he teaches a lesson to his disciple and make him realize that he was only satisfying his ego and not showing real selfless regard for his guru. So what is left unsaid is more eloquent and effective. The abrupt end gives the reader a powerful message. So Govinda's disciple's central idea revolves around the renunciation of one's attachment to material possessions to create space for divinity to enter our minds and make it fertile for spiritual endeavors. Humans' pursuit for wealth and the value we attach to materialistic things act as the biggest impediment on our paths for the spiritual attainment. Disciples like Raghunath, whose minds are still occupied with wealth and luxuries, can never achieve clarity on their real divine purpose in life, for they are too busy gathering and showing off wealth. In this poem, the great Sikh Guru, Govinda, by throwing his gift of bangles into the river, offers a profound lesson to such inauthentic disciples who are still struggling with materialism's hold over their minds and lives. So now we look into the ideal guru-disciple relationship. The kind of relationship a guru and his disciple ought to share forms another theme of this poem. So no spiritual learning can be imparted in guru-disciple relationships that are polluted by attachment to wealth and materialistic possessions. By presenting to us a great guru like Govinda, who, in a heartbeat, threw away the present of expensive bangle made to him, the poem tries to show us what an ideal relationship between a guru and his disciple should be like. So here is an apt quote for the topic. The guru and the disciple are united only when their selves are identical. So in order to achieve divinity or spiritual knowledge, both the guru and the disciple should follow the same path, leaving behind the love for the materials. If one gets distracted, it will be impossible to achieve the divinity. So now the poetic devices. The poetic device of personification as used in the poem when talking about the bank of the river and the river itself. The bank has been shown as a frowning, which is a human facial expression. Similarly, the river has been given a human attributes as it has been shown as stealing and hiding the gold bangles, just like a human. So the poem also uses imagery, which means description using the five senses. We can see the wooded hills round the river and the bejeweled gold bangles set with diamonds brought by the rich disciple. We can picture the teacher calmly reading his book by the river as the disciple desperately searches the river for his bangle. So next, the poem also uses paradox to make its point. When, as the sun is setting, the disciple begs his teacher to find his bangle for him. The teacher does the opposite of what the disciple expects. The teacher, instead of going into the river and helping him to recover the costly piece of jewelry, throws the other bangle into the river and tells him where the second one is. This is to say, now lost. This invites us to question how being lost is a matter of perspective. So, the personified river may know where the bangles are, and more importantly, to question what is valuable. Clearly, the teacher values the costly material ornament differently than his students does. So, that's the end of today's learning. Thank you.